Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You grab your phone, open social media, and see one headline. WWE has officially bought AEW World Wrestling Entertainment now owns All Elite Wrestling. Two of the biggest wrestling companies in North America are now one company. What happens to AEW Dynamite? What happens to the championships? What happens to the AEW stars? And most importantly, who would WWE sign? Today, we are imagining exactly what could happen if WWE bought AEW. This would change professional wrestling forever. Welcome back to BWP. Let us start with the biggest moment. WWE announces that it has acquired AEW. The wrestling world would absolutely explode. Social media would be going crazy. WWE fans would be celebrating. AEW fans would be freaking out. And wrestling fans everywhere would immediately ask one question. What is going to happen to the AEW roster? For this video, this is a fictional scenario. We are not saying WWE is actually buying AEW. We are imagining what if it happened. And if WWE really did purchase AEW, I do not think WWE would simply throw away everything AEW built. There would be way too much talent and too many possibilities. First question. What happens to AEW Dynamite? Personally, I do not think Dynamite would disappear immediately. I could see WWE keeping the AEW name temporarily. Imagine WWE announcing AEW Dynamite, presented by WWE. That would be absolutely insane. But eventually, WWE would have to decide whether AEW becomes another WWE brand, or whether the AEW identity disappears completely. Imagine having RAW, SmackDown, NXT, and then AEW. You could essentially have 4 major wrestling brands under one company. That could create an enormous amount of programming. But there is also a major problem. Let us talk about the wrestlers, because this is where things get crazy. Imagine some of the biggest AEW stars suddenly appearing on WWE television. You are watching RAW. The lights go out. And suddenly, Jon Moxley's music hits. The crowd would absolutely lose it. Or imagine Dynamite and Cody Rhodes walks into the ring. He looks around and says, "Welcome to AEW." The irony would be incredible. But Mox is not the only AEW star who could make a huge impact. Let us talk about some dream matches. First up, Roman Reigns vs Kenny Omega. Think about that match. The tribal chief against the best bout machine. That could headline almost any major event. Next, Cody Rhodes vs MJF. Cody helped build AEW. MJF became one of its biggest stars. Imagine WWE finally putting these two together on the biggest stage. Next, Seth Rollins vs Will Ospreay. The visionary against one of the most spectacular wrestlers in the world. That match would be absolutely ridiculous. How about Gunther vs Kazuchika Okada? 2 incredible wrestlers with completely different styles. And here is one that would have wrestling fans arguing for years. John Cena vs Chris Jericho. If WWE had both men available for one final major match, that could, let us be honest. If WWE bought AEW, everyone would immediately start talking about one thing. CM Punk vs Kenny Omega. The history. The controversy. The AEW connection. The fan debates. Imagine WWE somehow convincing both men to have one final match. You could build this for months. WWE could promote it as the match that was never supposed to happen. Whether you love them or hate them, people would watch. And that is what makes this hypothetical scenario so interesting. Now let us talk championships. Would WWE keep the AEW World Championship? Personally, I think WWE would eventually introduce a new championship system. But I would not immediately get rid of the AEW titles. I would use them as part of a storyline. Imagine the AEW World Champion walking onto RAW and saying, "This championship represents everything AEW accomplished." Then the WWE Champion walks out and says, "And this represents WWE." Now you have a championship versus championship storyline. WWE Champion versus AEW World Champion. Winner becomes the undisputed champion of the company. That could be the biggest match in this entire hypothetical scenario. And now, the big one. If WWE bought AEW, I think the first major event should be called WWE Invasion. Imagine the stage. One side represents WWE. The other side represents AEW. And the entire night is WWE stars against AEW stars. Here would be some of my matches. Seth Rollins vs Will Ospreay. Gunther vs Kazuchika Okada. Rhea Ripley vs Mercedes Moné. Cody Rhodes vs MJF. Roman Reigns vs Jon Moxley. And in the main event, CM Punk vs Kenny Omega. Tell me that would not be one of the biggest wrestling events of all time. Now let us say WWE decides to bring some of the biggest AEW stars into the WWE title picture. Who should become champion? Personally, I think MJF would be an incredible choice. Imagine MJF winning the WWE Championship, then standing in the middle of the ring and saying, "I told you I was the best. Now I own this place." The crowd would absolutely destroy him. And that is exactly what you want from a great heel. But I could also see someone like Will Ospreay becoming a major world champion. And imagine Okada winning the Royal Rumble, then challenging for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. The possibilities would be endless. But here is the problem. If WWE bought AEW, not everyone could stay. That is just reality. There are too many wrestlers, too many contracts, and too many shows. WWE would have to make some difficult decisions. Some wrestlers might become WWE stars. Some could go to NXT. Some could leave the company. And unfortunately, some could simply get lost in the shuffle. That is probably the biggest concern I would have with WWE buying AEW. Because AEW has built an entire generation of wrestlers. You would not want all of that history to disappear overnight. So here is the big question. Would WWE buying AEW actually be good for professional wrestling? There are arguments on both sides. On one hand, you would have an incredible collection of talent under one company. We could finally see dream matches that fans have been fantasy booking for years. But on the other hand, competition is important. WWE having no major North American competitor could potentially mean fewer choices for fans. AEW existence has also pushed WWE to create new ideas, sign talent, and give fans different styles of wrestling. So maybe the real question is not could WWE buy AEW? Maybe it is would wrestling be better if they did? Now I want to hear from you. If WWE bought AEW tomorrow, who would you want WWE to sign? Would you want to see Roman Reigns vs Kenny Omega? Cody Rhodes vs MJF? CM Punk vs Kenny Omega? Gunther vs Okada? Or another dream match? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to BWP, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next video. I am BWP, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.